Welcome to the EVRC, and in this video we'll be talking about the ridiculous e-bike rule that isn't the ban of throttles or the speed limit of 15.5 miles per hour. Why that rule doesn't make any sense at all, why it's discriminatory, why it's scientifically stupid, but also why the rule isn't really a problem and therefore totally pointless.
That's right, we're talking about the e-bike power law because so many people mentioned it in my video about throttle. I decided to make a video about it.
Now, near the end of the video, we'll talk about why it's a pointless law in more ways than one. So I'll be interested to know who manages to watch until the end. So let's really quickly brush over the main three laws that limit e-bikes. The first is that they mustn't assist the rider over 15.5 miles per hour or 25 kilometers per hour. As soon as you hit that speed, the motor should cut out.
Now, I'm not talking about that law in this video, but feel free to comment on it, but don't act like I'm moaning about it and that if I want to go faster, I need to buy a moped. Honestly, some people.
Of the three rules, I would say this is the one that actually isn't ridiculous. There are arguments for and against. I do wish it was about 19 miles per hour, but I do understand it. The second is the throttle law, in that they aren't allowed on e-bikes. This to me is the most ridiculous law, and 0 people in the comments of the video that I made about it were able to give me a valid reason why an e-bike shouldn't have a throttle. And of course, most people agreed. No more on that though, because we've already done a video on it.
If you want to buy a throttle, buy a moped. But you can't do this on a moped.
A link will pop up at the end of this video if you want to watch that throttle video. And the third law is the law we're talking about today. The law that an e-bike should have a maximum power output of 250 watts. You heard that right, a maximum power output. Not average, not sustained. It actually says maximum, despite what a lot of people seem to think. Apparently, this is around the power that we need to go 15 miles per hour on flat ground.
Which hopefully makes you think, hang on, we don't all live in Norwich.
Or at least makes you think we don't all live on flat ground. That doesn't make any sense. So the government said, hey guys, we've seen those e-bikes that you've been using and how great they are for people with mobility issues. Well, we've decided that if you live in a hilly area, then they should be totally useless.
Now this behind me is Sandy Lane. This is the hill I use to test an e-bike's hill climbing ability. Now it's a decent hill, but it's only 11%, so it's not that steep.
And here's a selection of e-bikes that definitely push out more than 250 watts that can't get up it.
It's not going to get there, is it? No, stop, it's going to stop. I'm going to have to help.
Of course, e-bikes aren't e-scooters. You can help by pedaling, and every one of these e-bikes could get up the hill when I pedaled. But then I'm fairly able-bodied. A lot of people aren't. A lot of people use e-bikes because they couldn't otherwise use an unpowered bike. I don't know about you, but I feel like they should be able to use an e-bike in the same way that fit able-bodied people can use a normal bike. Now granted, some people on a normal bike would struggle up this hill, so they have to get off and push. But how about if an e-bike user can't walk that far? They're basically being told you're not allowed up this hill because you aren't fit enough. Remember, I'm not saying that people should be able to bomb it up this hill.
I'm not pedaling, of course. 9 miles an hour now, 8 miles an hour. It's slowing down. Someone's just gone past on like a Ciron or something like that. Oh, it's struggling. Wow. All right.
But I think walking pace up the hill without assistance from the rider isn't too much to ask, and that's why the 250 watt maximum power rule discriminates both geographical location and a person's physical ability or characteristics.
So we're going to have a look at why the law is scientifically stupid shortly, but first let's look at another reason why it doesn't make sense, and another reason that makes a total mockery out of the speed law and the power law. This is starring the Avaka R1 just after a hill climb at Sandy Lane. By the way, the Avaka R1 is a lovely e-bike and it's really cheap too. We've done a video on it on the channel, so check that out if you want to see more. E-bikes are not allowed to be powered over 15.5 miles per hour unless they're powered by gravity. That's 32 miles per hour without pedaling. And considering I put the bike together myself, I'm pretty happy that it didn't all just fall to bits. So why am I allowed to be powered by gravity? That's why a speed limit on e-bikes makes sense, but not a power limit, because without mechanical power you can still go 30 miles an hour as long as you're going down a hill. So let's say you work at a place that's down a hill, you can go to work really fast because gravity helps you, but when you come back from work on a 250 watt e-bike, you'll come back at about 10 miles an hour. That's what doesn't really make sense.
So lawmakers decided we can go 15.5 miles per hour on flat ground. Downhill we're allowed 30 miles per hour plus, or at the speed limit of cars. That does not make sense, and by extension the power limit doesn't make sense. So why is the 250 watt power law scientifically stupid? Well, the vast majority of 250 watt e-bike motors are hub motors, meaning that they're pushing around the back or the front wheel. Now if you remember moments from your high school physics lessons, you'll know that the further away from a point of rotation that you exert a force, the easier it is to get it to rotate. So that's why it's quite easy to turn the wheel from here, but it's harder to turn the wheel from here. Now a hub motor like this one, obviously it's in there, so it turns the wheel from the inside like that, quite close to the point of rotation. Humans, however, we try and turn the wheels over here by pushing these pedals around. These are at the end of these crank arms, so further away from the point of rotation, making it easier for us. And that's when you don't even take into account the gears. If we're struggling, then we shift down. That's why you don't see families getting out and pushing their cars every time they get to a hill. Even the least powerful cars can get up the hill because they can go up the hill in a low gear. Hub motor e-bikes can't do that. Yes, you can get geared hub motors, but it's not exactly the same. Now, you can get something called a mid-drive motor on an e-bike. A lot of people much prefer these because instead of pushing around the back wheel, they push around the crank arms, the same things that your legs are pushing around. This means that mid-drive motors get to utilise the gears of an e-bike. Now, a 250 watt mid-drive motor almost makes sense, at least a lot more sense than a hub motor. The problem is that mid-drive motors are a lot more expensive than hub motors and also require more maintenance. Mid-drive should be a choice, not something we're forced to have.
Get to the yellow!
So we've talked about why the e-bike power rule discriminates, doesn't make any sense, and is scientifically stupid. But why is it also totally pointless? If you've been around this or similar channels, you most likely know that the power measured in watts that goes into a motor is calculated by multiplying the voltage of the battery by the current in amps drawn from the battery by the controller. So a battery at 36 volts with a current of 10 amps from a controller is already pushing 360 watts into the motor, not taking motor efficiency into account. Even the cheapo e-bikes put out more than that. Most cheaper e-bikes come with 36 volt batteries, and most controllers put out more than 10 amps. So e-bike manufacturers are basically ignoring the 250 watt maximum power rule anyway, because they can class the motor itself as 250 watts.
Which actually makes this video totally pointless. Oh.
Here is the 250 watt motor on my DYU S2, a lovely little e-bike, almost like an e-scooter, but one where you don't have to worry about the police pulling you over. Now here is the 250 watt motor on the escooter SX250. Here's me failing to go up Sandy Lane on the 250 watt DYU S2. Here's me easily going up Sandy Lane on the 250 watt escooter SX250. Here's the Super 73 website. They sell 250 watt 15.5 mile per hour e-bikes, except they have an off-road mode, allowing them to be more powerful and way faster. But it's the same bike. No, not a same bike.
But it seems, thankfully, that e-bike manufacturers can say that their bikes are 250 watts, but they're secretly a lot more powerful. So if that's the case, why even bother with the power rule? Just get rid of it. Just make sure they're limited to 15.5 miles per hour. And let it be known that if a rider does cause an accident going above the limit of 15.5 miles per hour, then they're going to be punished. That's just like motorcyclists that de-restrict their mopeds or their 125s. Speed rule, I get it. Power rule, pointless.
Do let us know in the comments what your thoughts are on the matter, and if you're still here, which you obviously are if you're listening to this, let us know that you made it to the end in the comments. I really appreciate you guys to stick around until the end, as it tells YouTube that you are interested in the video, so in turn more people will have a chance to see it. If you enjoyed the video, then don't forget to hit that thumbs up button, and if you like videos about e-bikes and other electric vehicles, then make sure you are subscribed. It's free and you can unsubscribe anytime you like. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, ride safe.